we're going to dive deep into the reasons why you might not be losing weight. But here's the catch. This episode has nothing to do about weight loss. This is a controversial topic because I don't want to come across shaming for those of you who are trying to lose weight. I don't want you to feel bad about that effort, but at the same time, I don't want to push this agenda of dieting. So this is a very fine line we're going to walk in this episode, but my hope is that if you're trying to get away from dieting, this is going to be a huge inspiration for you. If you're struggling with weight loss, this is going to be a light bulb moment. I'm going to be sharing the specific habits and shifts to make, the specific psychological blocks that you're facing. And I want to really bring it in by having you imagine a boat. You are the boat. Whatever beautiful boat you want to be. And you are floating on a lake, on the ocean. And imagine that you're in this boat and you have so many holes in this boat that you're constantly trying to clog up. You don't want to sink. What's happening is a lot of these holes already exist, and we'll go into what they are and the deeper inner psyche, where they come from. But also, they're being created new ones from some of the solutions, I say that in quotes, that you're going for. And one of them is extreme dieting, yo-yo dieting, all of that creates those holes. So I want you to imagine that boat, because my goal is that you get into this boat and you feel amazing and you don't have to worry about those freaking holes. So let's go into it. Now, I'm going to open with my own story because I want you to understand that although I've done this for 10 years, a little more now, as a non-diet nutritionist, a personal trainer, a behavior change specialist, everything I'm going to share with you is what I have seen in other women, many different ages, many different weights and sizes. And it's also what I experienced myself. So I'm not telling you this as someone who's detached or separated from the experience, because I have gone through what you are facing. I have felt so out of control with food, and I did not know how to stop. I have felt so uncomfortable in my body that I did not know what is the next step to end that, to not feel that. And I want this to be a resource for you to come back to. So when I share my story, I want to mention first, I had extreme binge eating disorder. I had lost the weight that I wanted to, and I had this extreme anxiety to keep it. And I did these really intense counting, excessive exercise sessions in the gym. You might relate to this, because of this deep fear that I would gain the weight back and feel even more miserable. Looking back, it's hard to imagine that, but that's how I felt. And did this by really extremely monitoring what I ate. Things like never putting the dressing on a salad. Things like having the cheese off of a pizza, not because I was dairy-free at the time, but because I didn't want the extra calories. All these tiny things on everything. Everything you can imagine, I had a shortcut to make it fit into my diet. And what happened because of that is because I was not honoring what my body actually needed for the physical activity I was doing and just basic energy needs. So I would get to the point where I would go a whole day, I'd have my set, tiny, small 5 meals, usually a lot of lettuce, some lean protein, and then I would be starving. And my conscious mind would slip back. I know this now. This is what happens. You might relate to this. My conscious mind would take a seat back, and my subconscious desires to just eat, to just feel full, to just taste flavor, to have some joy would come in. And I would go to the nearest store, usually a convenience store, and I would buy packs and packs of sugar-free juicy fruit gum. Or I would buy sugar-free, calorie-free Cool Whip, which is, fake whipping cream. And I would consume packs and cartons of this in one sitting. And I can still remember looking down at the floor. I was on my laptop watching a movie, looking at the floor, covered in juicy fruit wrappers from one day. Because I had, as soon as the flavor was gone in one stick, I'd put it into the wrapper to throw it away and get another one. Because I needed the flavor. I needed the sense of joy. I was still hungry. I needed to chew. This is one incident. and I could not figure out how to stop. Another time, this is even more embarrassing. I was staying at a friend's house. Of course, I hadn't bought enough food to eat. I was starving. All of the stores were closed. So I raided their cupboard and I found this huge, massive jar of Nutella. I took a spoon and I finished it in one sitting. And I remember the anxiety of looking down and thinking, I can't believe I did this. Someone trusted me to stay here, and this is what I did. And the increased anxiety because I was in a place where Nutella was not easily available. And so, how was I possibly going to replace it without them knowing? That led to a huge hunt down many stores to finding the Nutella, which I did. But it just was inconceivable to me to admit to someone that I had done this because I didn't want the judgment. I didn't want the shame. And you might relate to this. You might have done these kind of behaviors where you hide the evidence because you don't want to either see it yourself or you don't want someone else to find it. Now I can be the person that has the jar of Nutella and I have a spoonful and I can put it back. I can be the person who admits I didn't eat enough and maybe it's more than I thought I would have, but I will get that extra serving. This is what I want for you too. If you can accept this one point, it will really drive you forward and help you with your self-esteem, with body confidence, with food. When I told you these stories, this anxiety I had, this lack of control around food, I was at my goal weight. And when you reach your goal weight through restriction, psychological tricks, extreme dieting, it leads to this mental hell and so much massive anxiety. It's like if you're in that leaky boat and you make it to the other side where you wanted to get, but you can't step off onto land and the holes are still there. The water is still coming in. It's actually worse because you can no longer hold on to the dream of, oh, when I get to the other side, I'll be better. If you can accept that maybe just reaching the weight is not enough, that there's something else you can do, and it's actually deeper healing and helps you more. Anyone who is in this situation who hears these words, you can progress towards your goals if you start with a healing. These are the 5 patterns that I've noticed over a decade of working with women that create a dependency on food and often create eating disorders like binging. I had them too. One is emotional triggers. The way that they relate to food, the way that I related to food is emotionally triggered. I feel stress, I feel anxiety, I feel unworthy, I feel out of control. Therefore, I go to food. And I will be honest with you and tell you that one doesn't go away. You just learn how to manage it a lot better. And it doesn't feel like this heavy weight anymore that you carry with you for weeks and weeks and feel like you need to make up for in workouts. The other one is procrastination. People would often use food as a way to avoid doing something they didn't want to do. Now, this could be something physical. For example, I don't want to start on this project. Or it could be something mental. I don't want to think about that breakup. I'm saying these without judgment and shame because I know them, because I've seen them and worked with people that have had these, but also because I experienced them. Creating joy moments in the day. Oof. This is a tricky gray line one because I don't see any problem with having moments in your day with food that you really enjoy, that you really like and you look forward to. It's a question of degree and how it's impacting your mental health. It's also a question of, are you deriving joy from other things in your life? Or is it really just food? This is not taking into account special circumstances like grief. It relates in a lot of ways. I think about sometimes on this joy moments when I quit having coffee. I took coffee out of my diet after 15 years of having it 2-3 times a day. And I did that because, one, I noticed I had an extreme dependency on it. The morning was horrible until I had coffee, and I really struggled with sleep. And when I first tried to quit coffee, the thing that I decided that I would do is I would stop it, and I did for 3 months, and then I would reintroduce it, and I would only have it on Tuesdays and Thursdays. and I would go to a little coffee shop across the street that I really loved. They had the cute pastel pink awning. They made the nice foamy cappuccino that I liked. And what I realized when I tried to keep it on Tuesdays and Thursdays is I would look forward to that coffee all week. And it was almost like there was nothing else that was so interesting or as exciting as that coffee. If I felt stress and anxiety, I just thought about that coffee. And you can guess what happened. I ended up going every day and picked the habit back up because I didn't heal the underlying issue, which we'll talk about. So creating joy moments. Also, a big one, which you probably already realized, is dieting goals. So if we have really strict dieting goals, they can initiate the struggle cycle. Because if my goal is to lose a certain amount of weight, I'm stepping on the scale every day, and I go into a habit where I eat more than I was supposed to on my meal plan. And then I step on the scale and I've gained the pound or however many that I was supposed to lose. That initiates the struggle cycle. And I think, fuck it, why don't I just go and have more food? Something that I went through so many times too. Not everybody is impacted this way by diet. Some people are not. But if you're listening to this episode, you're probably in the same camp that I was in, that many women are in, that it does create this struggle. And then the last pattern that really creates a dependency is internalizing external inputs. So you're going to change the way you eat, how much you eat, what you do with food based on external things that happen. It could be someone else's comments to you that really upset you, maybe directly related to your body, the way you eat, maybe related to the way that you perform, not being good enough, triggers a food response. It could be something related to an external situation. Maybe if you're a parent, you're really struggling with your kids right now. It's creating this stress and anxiety. Again, moving towards the food. I'm not saying any of this with judgment at all. This is so widespread for a reason. But these are the patterns that you start to notice have created this dependency. And if you recognize any of them in you, you've already done the first step of this work. These patterns are basically the hidden leaks under the waterline of your boat. You might think the one leak is, oh, I'm not eating the right foods, I'm not exercising enough, let me plug those 2 leaks. But those are the smallest leaks, and there are many more you're not looking at. When you diet, you're actually working backwards. You start with a number, weight loss goal, inches lost, or a specific physical change you want to see. Notice I said see, not feel. So we adopt the habits to achieve that physical or that number change. That is our priority. It's our measure of progress is the number, not the habits. But we really have it backwards because what matters is not the number, but the habits first. And in fact, if you started with those, then actually the number goal would be much easier. I'm not making any promises that you will reach it because your body is going to go to where it feels most healthy, but you will feel a lot less mental anguish. You will feel a lot more confidence if you instead take this relationship how it's supposed to be and start with the habits and not the number goal. Think about something you do every day, an action or a habit you have that you suspect might be impacting how you feel about your body or food. So let's say mine is midnight snacking. If I look at midnight snacking and how it's not making me feel great in my body, it's creating indigestion, maybe some food guilt. What would be the reverse habit of that? Eating enough in the day, maybe managing my stress in a different way, getting better sleep so that I don't wake up in the middle of the night. Those are all the supporting habits that would make a difference for me and put me towards my goal. So the easiest way to identify what you're doing is to think about what are some of the daily actions in your life that you feel are making you feel worse. I would start from the moment you wake up. What are some of the things? And a tricky part here is that habits are not just what you do, it's also the way you think. So you might want to come back to this part later, but let's talk about now the biggest new habits related to thoughts, but also some actions here that you can do right now. These are 5 big ones that will shift the way you feel about your body, food, and will get you away from struggling with weight loss all the time to just feeling good in your body. First one, huge one, is shifting from forbidden to permissible, from forbidden foods to allowed. You might have heard this before, but a really great analogy that brings it home for me is I was speaking once to a therapist and they were telling me about how they were helping people who were shopping addicts. And that's, people who spend a lot of money, often more than they can, and are addicted to it. And what this therapist shared with me is that often the reason why these people are doing this, why they feel compelled to do it, is because they grew up in households where they did not have money, where they really struggled financially. And for them, this is a way of creating a different reality. And this stuck with me so profoundly because of the next part that this therapist said. They said, one of the biggest things I give them to start shifting away from this is to tell them they can go into any shop they want and say, I could buy this. To internalize that, to collect the feeling of I could have this if I wanted to, but I don't have to. It's not an overnight shift. It's accompanied with a lot of other mindset tools, but you can see the parallel here, I hope. If you look at food as something that you can have, you can start the process of I can have this. And in the beginning, you probably will need to give yourself it to convince yourself you can. But getting in the habit of I can have this, but I don't need to. Not that I shouldn't, but I don't need to. Sometimes you will, but it's this idea of allowing yourself to know that you can have these foods. They are not off limits to you or restricted to just certain days or certain hours, is going to completely shift this thought of scarcity, practicing I can have it if I want it. Next is going from good food, bad food to energy-giving food. There is truth to the fact that what you eat impacts how you feel. Having certain foods that are nutrient-rich impacts your energy. It lets you digest better. It makes going to the bathroom easier. And you need a lot of that in your diet. And I speak of diet as in daily what you're eating, not restriction. It's hard to prioritize those foods, though, when you think about them as just the good food, the flavorless food, the food that I have to have, compared to the bad, naughty food that I always wanted. Shifting instead to, I'm having this meal of quinoa and broccoli or whatever it is you want to put in because it energizes me, because it allows me to take care of my body, because it allows me to feel good, is very different from I'm having this meal because I want to get smaller, because I'm not good enough right now. Small shift. But if you think it 100 times a day, which you probably do when you think about foods you want but can't have, big impact. Next is acknowledging your behavior without shame. A natural thing that we do when we're dieting or we're trying to lose weight is if we do an action or a habit that is against the rules, we eat when we weren't supposed to, we skip a workout, we feel shame and guilt, and that triggers the struggle cycle. If you can take a moment to accept that you have done this behavior, to observe it, watch it, identify the actions and reasons for why you're doing it. I'm having this right now because I'm feeling very stressed and I haven't done anything in my week to really build in moments of pause. How valuable is that? That then tells me that next week I can create those moments of pause and maybe things will be a little easier. Use these moments when you are struggling because you're not following the quote unquote rules of weight loss to give you information on how you can really fill those holes in your boat. It's showing you, it's giving you this arrow of why am I struggling so much? Next, big habit to start is movement you love. It's all well and good to choose exercises that make you stronger, cardio for your heart, all of that. But when you're coming from a position of my main goal is weight loss, and I've been obsessed with this for a long time, you will benefit most by shifting your relationship to exercise from what burns the most calories, what gets me smaller, to what do I actually want to do. Because if you continue to choose movement you actually enjoy, regardless of its physical impact for you, you are creating a thought pattern and a habit of going towards movement to feel better, not to just escape body shame. Once you've created that habit, and usually I'll say to people, it takes between 3 to 6 months of doing movement you love, enjoying it, then you go ahead and you shift into more performance-based targets. And I'm not talking about calories burned here. I'm talking about how many reps can I do? How much weight can I lift? What workouts will help me to go faster? But start with what you love first. And lastly, I think this is probably the most, if I could tell people to do one thing to feel better in their bodies, it would be this. Have clothes in your closet that you like that fit. If you're someone who fluctuates a lot with your weight, have multiple sizes. Because the one thing that can really shoot someone's self-esteem down so fast and put them in that cycle of binging, dieting, back to it, is going to be trying something on that doesn't fit or only being able to wear clothes you hate, that you hide in. If you don't have something right now that you like wearing that fits you well, go get it. It doesn't need to be an expensive item at all. Go get it, because it will make a difference in how you feel. I'm telling you to do the opposite of what most people say. Most people will say to you, a lot of fitness coaches will say, if you have the one little black dress you want to fit into, the smallest size, hang it up, look at it. Use that as your motivation. I'm saying don't do that. Get the little black dress that fits you now, right now where you are, and wear the crap out of that baby. To remind yourself that you are amazing how you are right now. And you are worthy and you can be comfortable right now. Wear that black dress or pantsuit or whatever you want that fits right now. The whole idea of this whole episode is to show you that feeling good in your body is not about weight loss. It's about removing the shame and judgment that cause you to go down these spiraling patterns with food or with fitness or with how you view yourself. I want you to get in your boat, to not care what size it is, enjoying the journey. I hope that this made you see things a little differently. You are capable of healing. Nothing is wrong with you. If you're struggling with a weight loss, it's because there is a lot deeper work to go through. Please share this episode with everyone you love so that they can feel good in their bodies too. And I will see you in the next one.